But let's get to the main event. AEW World Title match. CM Punk defeats Hangman Page for the AEW World Title. Just over 25 minutes. Thought this was a good match. I didn't think it was bad. I think there are some people that hold that opinion. I didn't think it was like an all-timer or anything. It was just like, oh, okay. Very weird crowd dynamics, I would say. It felt like Twitter come to life. We are well aware of the toxic nature of like debates over people's favorites and stuff like that. Like it felt like Twitter, like people weren't necessarily like bigging up their guy. They were here to shit on the other guy. Like that's what I felt like during this match. And
that's what I felt like while watching it. Like it in a way while watching it, because it felt like watching a Japanese crowd, except like if they were negative as fuck instead of positive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was like whoever, like these matches, in Japan, like, the wrestling is more of a sport than based on a heel face dynamic. There might be people you lean towards the light more, but it's more or less like cheer for your favorites when they're working underneath or they're in danger. You cheer for them to get up and fight back. In this match, when they were going back and forth, it was like whoever was on top, the fans for the person that was working underneath at the time didn't cheer for CM Punk or Adam Page to fight back. They were just like, "Ooh, I don't like the part where my guy has to sell for you." And I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with y'all?" Like, it was weird. It was really weird.
It was the split that I was describing in the column. It was really, that we were talking about on the show last week.
It was really, for me, it was really weird, and like for me watching it, from the entrances, or really after entrances, as the entrances come out, like Punk gets the bigger pop than Page does, and then the match happened, and it's closer. It's probably like 60-40 Punk throughout the whole match of who people were were going for. For me, listening to the hype video of what Adam Page said to Punk as far as his reasoning, like it sounds ridiculous to me. Like it I am not winning. I am not trying to keep this belt. I'm trying to keep this belt from you instead of trying to keep it against you or whatever the fuck he said. But it's like his line was like he's trying to protect AEW from CM Punk. And I'm like, this sounds a lot like the misguided things that like, what's his name? Who's the Clippers owner? I forgot his name.
Donald
Microsoft.
Sterling. Oh,
no, after Donald Sterling.
Steve Ballmer.
Steve Ballmer. It sounds like the stuff that like Steve Ballmer and the Clippers are trying to do with like trying to get their own little bit of fan base out of the Southern California market, where it's like they're trying to attract like a working class demographic of fans, and they talk about hard work and basically like they're trying to appeal to a certain demographic, and I'm just like, hey, the thing you're misunderstanding is like, this is the Lakers, and like this is like Kobe Bryant and Pat Riley. Like that's not that ethos of hard work holds up in the Lakers. And it's like when he says the thing about like I'm trying to protect CM Punk from AEW and I don't want this place to change. It was like, my brother, AEW does not fucking exist without CM Punk. Starting from 2011 in the pipe bomb and going from there, like they set them like he's arguably the most influential American wrestler of the last decade plus. Like, so I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, we're not here without him to be here. So as a fan, I'm like, huh? So getting back to the match.
But at what point does like, all right, we appreciate what you did, but we got it from here. Like, what point does that come in?
I guess the point where CM Punk sucks.
I was gonna say that's what I feel like, because like I don't feel like CM Punk like holds up to Hangman Page.
In the ring, no. But as far as the traditional things of what like makes a star, the only thing he does better is the wrestling. I'm not trying to dismiss that. Like I prefer watching Adam Page match to CM Punk match at this stage of the game, but he's not a better promo than him. He doesn't draw better quarter hours than him. He doesn't draw bigger houses than him based off of stuff he's heavily involved in. Like the way they set this match, especially with the commentators around it, was like and maybe I'm mistaken because like I didn't watch it, but like going from the hype video package and going like the commentators, like they gave up this thing that like Paige was like trying to protect AEW from the evil CM Punk, and I'm like, when has CM Punk been the quote unquote evil CM Punk in AEW? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they were trying to do some rally like we want people to cheer for both of them, so we'll give the line that like I am AEW, like you know, like how Goshi like says I am Noah, like, and I'm just like, cool, bro, but like, what does it got to do with like y'all fighting to figure out who's the best? Like, this some shit you came up with the last week. Like like this is like this is meta talking being brought to the forefront, and I'm like, whatever, man. And then, but anyway, back to the match. I thought the match was great. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think this is Punk's best match in AEW. Go ahead.
No, Eddie Kingston.
You're right. I think that match is better from the standpoint of what it had to accomplish. I think this match is how do I say this? I think this match it requires a better performance out of Punk to get it done. Even with the goofy buttshot layers he throws that got worse and worse every time. Like that's like his slingshot cutter.
Bad.
Yeah.
But
all 3 times he's tried it, he's fucked it up. Like even the one like Paige saved it by like turned into a counter, and then he was like, "Go get it again," and he went and got it again. He fucked up again. But yeah, like I really enjoyed the match. I appreciated like the physicality of it. Was starting out with the chops and everything else, and like I thought that I thought obviously like he you know for the stretch he was in for like a month or so doing like the Bret Hart routine, like aside from the sharpshooter, this was a CM Punk type of match.
All the sharpshooters on this show look like absolute shit, and everybody in this promotion should be banned from doing them except the Young Bucks, like and Sting, who does the Scorpion Deathlock. Everyone else got to quit.
Thunder Rosa, when she did it was like she was tired, so I cut her some slack, but it was like, well, go to another move.
Everybody else, pack it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the situation was, but yeah. But yeah, like, I thought the match was great. Like, the story they're told were like, you know, Paige gets so desperate that he starts to think that he's going to start cheating to protect the Precious, like he's fucking Schmeagol in Lord of the Rings, before eventually putting the thing back down, and then ultimately gave him, you know, ended up screwing himself out because he had a conflict of crisis, and a crisis of conscience, and he ends up, you know, blinking, so he ends up catching him. It's like it was really like watching it. It reminded me of like this reminds me of that Money in the Bank match with CM Punk and Cena, and then once like he does the belt thing, it was like, oh, this is like his version of Cena like stopping Laurinaitis from doing the screw job thing and then getting in and you know, catching the GTS.
It's funny that Paige from day one said they didn't want to get sucked into a masturbatory Bret Hart match.
And then he does a CM Punk Cena match.
No,
yeah.
At the end, it turns into Piper and Bret Hart, where Piper doesn't want to use the ring bell and then catches it, you know, at the end or whatever.
I mean, there's a bunch of examples of people doing that sort of thing, but he you know, he wavered or whatever else.
But I thought Hangman's like promo stuff talking about against CM Punk was more like a rallying cry around like the changing times of AEW, as far as like, and CM Punk being the face of all these these imports and new wrestlers, and like, you know, we often talk about things not staying the same. Like, people need somebody to rally behind that really tap into that stuff. So
I guess, but like, I don't know, maybe it's because I like a lot of the wrestlers that came in more than I like the wrestlers that were here and that were like doing smaller things anyway. Maybe that's what it is. So I'm kind of numb to it, but it's like, that's lifeblood of pro wrestling. Like, if you want a successful pro wrestling company, you have to have churn at the top. Otherwise, you're counting your days until your days are numbered. So, you know,
I gotta say, I'm not excited about the the Phil Punk era that we're headed into, or excuse me, the Phil Hart era we're headed into. And like, you know, FTR comes out and celebrates with them after they go off air. They all have these
Are you
shirts
serious?
on
I didn't know that.
yeah, that say like Sons of Brett on them. I think it's getting really nauseating. I think it is getting taken advantage of as a gimmick. And like, you know, I understand homage. I understand shouting out to people that came before you, but like I know what this is, bro. Like like, and it's just like it feels like this you know, and I've talked I was talking in the group chat earlier. I was like, Eddie Kingston doesn't abuse All Japan Pro Wrestling this bad. Like as far as like stealing entire sequences of matches, the ring gear, the finishes, the just constant like
Well, he's not calling himself.
reminders.
Well, he's not out here wearing a T-shirt called Kingston Kabashi either, is he?
Yeah, it's like what the fuck is going on, man? Like, and then like, and I think the stuff that Eddie Kingston actually takes assimilates into the modern style, in the style that is, you know, kind of carried this company to prominence thus far, rather than the CM Punk way or whatever. And then everything he's doing, the stuff he's taking from Brett, and you know, the stuff he's doing with Dustin, literally recreating Raw matches from 1997. It feels like the past, like, and it just feels like this you know, it's a wave, and that I think we're gonna have to ride out. I say everyone that is not that agrees with me that's listening to this, something we're just gonna have to ride out until you know the you know, time comes where people kind of catch up to what's going on here. I do have a Hangman Page title eulogy. I wrote one for him as I wrote one for Kenny Omega. So James, I'll go ahead and take it from here. So Hangman Page was the fourth AEW World Heavyweight Champion. After 197 days, he lost the championship clean to CM Punk in a very good match that felt like a crossroads for the company, with both men representing different time periods and spirits of All Elite Wrestling. Losing the championship on his seventh defense, he leaves plenty on the table in the future, but gave us the best in-ring world championship reign in AEW history, eclipsing the man he defeated for the championship, Kenny Omega. Page won the title in incredible fashion and rolled into a pair of classic matches against Bryan Danielson, one being a 60-minute draw, giving him back-to-back-to-back classic championship matches that will live on in fans' minds for years to come. Aside from the matches in his reign, he submitted an incredible non-title match against Konosuke Takeshita. AEW was strong business-wise with Page as the champion. With crowds back in full swing, Page was in key positions on several of AEW's most successful shows critically and financially during his reign. If there was a down point of his reign, Page's television presence left something to be desired for some, as he would routinely not monopolize television time and didn't seem to center the promotion around him like some of his predecessors. At times, his characters seemed to struggle, and he would have to out-wrestle the dynamics around him, those dynamics being very over challengers or hotter stories elsewhere. Page in the ring was phenomenal. He rose to the occasion of any world championship standard anywhere in the world in his first go-around with the title, and for sure will wear the crown one day again. His tremendous versatility allowed him to meet opponents like Danielson, Archer, and Cole in any style they wanted to take it to. As a 30-year-old first-time champion, Hangman Page should be the blueprint to study for first-time champions. When looking back, history will be very kind to the Hangman, who used this reign to solidify his main event status. He will always be the first man who is not a world champion in WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or Ring of Honor to rise to world title status in All Elite Wrestling. As for the future, the end of his reign showed a more aggressive side that could be explored. Reuniting with the Elite is always on the table, with the Dark Order not seen as much. For the first time in AEW, Hangman's next journey may be alone. Hangman Page won lots of people over, including myself, during this reign.
Yeah. So far, I was thinking about this maybe like a couple weeks ago. This was actually when you were telling me that people were like ready to trying to get the shit off the Page and talking about like he's a weak champion or the nonsense they were saying. But like, I mean, so weak that like, you know, look at the buy rate, look at the buy rates, real weak champion on top, right? Anyway, I thought to myself, I actually went through it and I was like, okay, so this isn't the end all be all, but I was like, is he a most outstanding wrestler performer so far this year? Like, as far as like, is he in contention? He
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I thought myself, like, from a Flair Thez perspective so far this year, like, I guess you could say CM Punk. Obviously, I don't like that match he had Revolution with MJF nearly as much as most people do. So I'll allow for that, right? Outside of that, Shuri, Okada, maybe Zack Sabre Jr.
I think Okada slowed up a little, but he's got, plenty of time.
Slowed up compared to like his 2018 standard or whatever. But like, as far as like killer matches or whatever else. No, well, as far as like Flair Thez, when you got to be on top as champion as well. Like, it's pretty much him, Shuri, and Okada so far this year. And I was like, so what? I don't get why people were like so acting like the sky was falling. It didn't make sense to me.
There was one interesting thing about his title reign that I wonder why. And then I was thinking about the landscape, and it was like, well, why did they only position him against either very popular people, or like Danielson had to do like a faux heel turn to do the program, very popular person. They had him going against Lance Archer, and they stick what's his name with him,
Lambert.
They go with Adam Cole, and they know Adam Cole's a very popular heel. Why didn't they ever give him like some heel, like detestable heel, to face at any point during this thing? And then he fights CM Punk, who's a babyface. And Aaron Rotowski, shout out to him. He wrote a column like kind of wondering about that. Like,
are they turning him heel? Is where you're getting at?
What's up?
People think they may be turning him heel.
I wasn't going that far, but like it was just like, yo, like why didn't they allow him to face real heels like during this thing?
I think they recognized he was a weak champion, and they put in people that are also like, if you put him with Adam Cole, if you put him with Danielson, if you put him with Punk, like the buy rate will stay there. Like, I think that's some of it. Like, and also, quite frankly, outside of MJF, who could they have put in that spot?
Like, what happened to Malachi Black?
They trailed off with him because they like moved off from the Cody thing, and then they put him into a trios.
Yeah, so
Andrade, they slotted him.
Like,
I'm trying to think who else could they have gone with. Ricky Starks ain't there yet, not even close. These got they don't have enough good babyface or good heels right now.
Like, Chris Jericho couldn't have got a shot at him. Well, Chris Jericho was a babyface a lot of time before the turn. And that would have been a nice button up of him getting a win,
beating
over
him,
Jericho.
and in the first title match,
yeah. So like, I think that's a thing. Like, they should start looking at their heels in AEW and developing some good ones.
Like, well, let's look, right. Let's look. Okay, so looking at this. All right, so MJF
feels like he's got to rebuild for a little bit.
Well, I'm just going down. Okay. I'm just looking at this card, so I'm just naming it baby faces at random almost. Malachi Black in House of Black, Adam Cole, Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, Kyle O'Reilly, Jericho, Ricky Starks. That's the list. That is a weak list of heels. So like they've done too good of a job at making heroes that they don't have enough good villains, and the villains that they do have, they give them these factions of non-threat villains and henchmen doing henchman work, and like then they don't get to go over and get themselves super hot.
Because then you think about like the crowd reactions and that Page was running into is like, it would probably have been a little easier for him,
Yeah,
to
like
ride as a babyface.
And a lot of, I think people come in and they have to figure out like what we're gonna do as a program to do, for the best of multiple people or whatever else, and then you get like, all right, well, Malachi Black was hot as fish grease, and then like the Cody thing was weird, and then like how do you transition out of that?
You know,
Bro, Brody King showed up. Oh, Buddy Matthews showed up. All right, now they have that. Oh, and then like the program that he would have done and blown off by now, like we're gonna put that on hold for months because Phoenix dislocated his elbow.
you know, they did have a guy that could no longer ever like challenge for the title. That was there kind of in the same period that, you know, that if he was a heel, you know, it might have, you know, they might have had the correct dynamic there. Just to say that.
Maybe, just maybe,
yeah. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for Double or Nothing as far as a review. Yeah, I'm to be sold. Like, I'm gonna have to see it from CM Punk as far as the greatness or whatever. Like, and it's just as a world champion in 2022, he feels like we're going backwards, and there are some
backwards to what?
Like the old era of wrestling, like why didn't they go with, like, you know, you start looking at Danielson and CM Punk and they came in together.
Mm-hmm.
Danielson smokes them in every facet of the game. I think they do that match at some point, I would think, for the title. But Danielson's not doing, like, he's not recreating 1993 King of the Ring because that's all he knows how to do right now. I have no excitement for CM Punk at Forbidden Door. I have no opponent aside from maybe Tanahashi that I think could be, like, interesting because Tanahashi he'll figure it out. We saw what he did with Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom. But, like, I feel like one of the best, like, wrestlers in the world doesn't have the belt. And, like, it's not like a case where he's a
that's
current...
fine. The first world champion wasn't one of the best wrestlers in the world anymore either.
Right, but he was, like, the most dynamic and engaging and, like, felt like he was just on the cutting edge of creativity and putting things over the way, you know, where it just felt, like, fresh. Like, I feel no freshness with CM Punk.
I think that a lot of that has to do with this weird transition thing that we're in. Like, I think once they stabilize, they'll be in a better spot. And also, like, you know, I remember you mentioned this a few weeks ago. Like, last year they did this thing where it seemed like the company had gotten to a malaise, and then all of a sudden they got to the summer, and then they hit the ground running. I think there's still, you know, time for that. But I'm just looking over at like, just remind myself of like CM Punk's cage match from this year, or his match guy from this year, and I'm looking at him like, you know, I vehemently disagree with that fucking dog collar match, but like looking back over this stuff, and you know, I also didn't love the first CM Punk match. I gave it a respect rating because it was good, but it wasn't what I wanted. Like, maybe it's a thing where it's like, I guess I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, me personally, like, I see it as like, CM Punk had to be champion at some point, in a similar fashion way I'm thinking about the Eddie Kingston thing. And it's like, if how long you gonna hold the shit off? You know, until he's fucking too far gone, right? And it's like, all right, the time that you can do it now, while Omega's out, you can give wide berth for him. You know, try to figure out when to get to a Kenny Omega CM Punk match and do that. You know, at a big venue, maybe your biggest show ever. You can do that. And then you can go from there, and then you say, look, he's already done that. Now we transition on him and move on to something else after that, as opposed to waiting, past the window, and then this shit gets worse. You know, he's worse for wear, or he gets fucking hurt, or whatever else. And like right now, I mean, the shit speaks for itself. Like, we're kind of, I feel like we're almost in the minority on it. Like, for me, I was ambivalent to whoever walked out with the championship. I didn't care who won. But like, as far as my enthusiasm level for CM Punk being the champion is like, I think that there's more interesting things he could do with the belt than what Paige had done, because Paige was only having matches. And like, I love those matches, but like, I feel like he can kind of set the table in a way at the top of the company in a way that Page just can't do because he's not that kind of all-time promo. There's no shade on not being all-time promo, but Punk can do that. So, for me, I'm fine with it. I wonder what we're gonna do with Page after this. I wonder if he takes time off. I don't know. I wonder what he does next.
How about Malachi Black?
Yes, I was asked for that months ago.
So,
I was asked for that like the summer before he won the title, when he was basically off TV or not doing shit on TV. So yeah.
Maybe they can have Sammy slap him in the face or something like that.
Oh God, I don't want Sammy Guevara next to. No thanks. No thanks. I don't think that's gonna do Adam Page any favors being next to that dynamic right now.
He'll get cheered.